Today, we're diving deep into one of the planet's most powerful and, frankly, terrifying natural phenomena, the tropical cyclone. And look, that's not an exaggeration. When we say they're the planet's greatest engines of destruction, we mean it. These are immense forces of nature that can literally reshape coastlines and leave behind unbelievable devastation. Just to give you a sense of that power, the winds inside the most powerful storms can scream at over 157 miles per hour. That's faster than a bullet train. It's a level of force that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. So, the big question is, how does a monster like this even come to be? Well, let's break down the anatomy of a cyclone and see how it's born. So, what exactly is a tropical cyclone? At its heart, it's a massive, spinning storm system. The best way to think about it is like a giant, rotating engine that's fueled by warm ocean water. It's built around a center of low pressure, and its trademarks are those incredibly strong winds and huge, organized thunderstorms. You know, the recipe for making one is surprisingly simple. It really just takes three key ingredients. First up, you need fuel, which comes from really warm ocean water. Then, all that heat makes the moist air above it rise up, forming massive thunderstorms. And finally, and this is the key part, the Earth's own rotation gets involved. It's called the Coriolis effect, and it's what gives that whole column of air its signature spin. Simple ingredients, but the result is anything but. Once that engine really gets going, it develops a very specific, recognizable structure, and it really breaks down into three main parts. Right at the very center, you have the eye, and it's this bizarrely calm area where the sky might even be clear. But don't let that fool you, because wrapped around it is the eye wall. That is the most violent, dangerous part of the entire storm, where you'll find the absolute strongest winds and the heaviest rain. And then, spiraling out from there, you have the rain bands, those long, curved lines of thunderstorms that you always see on the satellite maps. Okay, so now we know how they're built, but how do we talk about them? Let's get into how we name and rate these storms, because that's how we really understand the scale of the threat. Now, you've probably heard a bunch of different names, right? Hurricane, typhoon, cyclone, and it can get a little confusing. But here's the thing, they're all the exact same weather event. The only difference is where in the world they happen. If it's in the Atlantic, we call it a hurricane. In the Northwest Pacific, it's a typhoon. And in the Indian Ocean, it's a cyclone. Same storm, different name. So to measure just how strong these storms are, meteorologists use scales like the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale. It's pretty straightforward. It ranks storms from Category 1 to 5 based on wind speed. And this isn't just for the weather nerds. This scale is absolutely crucial. It helps predict the kind of damage to expect and helps officials make those life or death calls about evacuations. All right, now let's connect all this science to the real world, because the truly devastating impact of these storms really boils down to three main threats. This is where we see the real-world consequences of all that wind and water. So, what is it that really makes these storms so incredibly dangerous? It's a fair question, and the answer is, it's not just one thing. It's really a triple threat. First, you've got the storm surge. This is a massive wall of water the storm pushes ashore, causing huge, sweeping floods. Second, you have those extreme winds we talked about, powerful enough to tear buildings apart and turn everyday objects into deadly projectiles. And third, there's the torrential rain, which can go on for days and cause widespread flooding, flash floods, and even landslides, often far from the coast. And the thing is, the damage doesn't stop when the storm passes. Not even close. The impacts ripple out for months, even years. We're talking billions of dollars in economic damage and massive long-term disruption to people's lives and entire communities. Now, I know this all sounds pretty scary, but here's the good news. Knowledge is power. So let's talk about how we can actually prepare and survive these events. Let's turn what we've learned into a real plan of action. Think of this 4-step plan as your best defense. Step 1 is all about getting ready before a storm is even on the radar. Build that emergency kit and know your evacuation route. Step 2 is securing your home, protecting windows, tying down loose stuff outside. And finally, and this is the most critical part, stay informed by listening to the experts, and if they tell you to evacuate, you go, immediately. Being prepared is what saves lives, plain and simple. Because when you boil it all down, it comes to this. Really understanding these storms is the first step.
It's how we learn to respect their incredible power and do everything we can to minimize the impact they have on our lives.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about for the future. As our planet continues to change, how is our relationship with these powerful natural systems going to have to change too? It's something we'll all need to consider as we share the planet with these awesome forces of nature.